Hey everybody, so I hope you're having a great evening. I wanted to do this little video to talk you through how we work through our Latin at home in conjunction with the Latin Workbook. So I just posted my video with the new 2020-2021 Challenging Latin Workbook, and I just wanted to show you how we used it this past year with my son. So anyway, basically these were the elements of our Latin work. So every day I tried to get him to do some flashcards, or he would read over the rules in the grammar book. He would do copy work. A lot of that came from the workbook. He would copy noun endings, verb endings, vocabulary charts. He would do it sometimes in the workbook, sometimes we would do it verbally. And then we had an element of either declining or conjugating each day. He might only do one per day, but he did some of this every day. It might be nouns or adjectives or verbs, depending on what I wanted him to work on. And then finally, we would get to the exercises. So we would designate just a few minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes to get through some exercises. Some of these he did in notebook paper. Some of them he did out loud with me, and that way we could just bang through a whole bunch of them verbally very, very quickly. So I'm going to show you what that looked like. And then, of course, right before Community Day, he would preview the upcoming lesson that we were going to be talking about in class. So flashcards, first of all, I want to show you a little bit that I did with flashcards. Now, I really like the antiquated notions. Oh, geez, I can't get this open. Hold on. And so I have a bunch of these little buckets because they don't all fit, but these are the note cards, flashcards like this, and they are color coded based on, for the nouns, the first, second, third declension, and so forth. And then they're labeled on the back with what lesson they are with the English and then the lesson. Now gender is not on here, but anyway, that's okay. So this was the first batch of flashcards that I ever got, and so I divvied them up in these buckets so I could just pull out certain lessons at a time and he could pull through. Sometimes we would take out, if I wanted him to work on the nouns, we would, well, here, I pull out this section. So let's see here. Maybe we would separate them by the nouns. So I would put all the red ones together, and then for the declensions, and he would work through those. If we were doing second declension, then I would have him separate them into, you know, the masculine us or the neuter and have him tell me which ones, you know, were which, what gender they were. Same thing with just all the different ones. Or we would pull out, you know, just these right here, and he could just run through conjunctions all together. So we just sort of, I guess, categorized them a little bit, and then he could work on them in the groups like that. These guys right here, for all of these irregular verbs, I would have him put them in order, like first person, second person, third person, singular, and then first person, second person, third person, plural, so that he could be looking for the OST, mustus, unt. But anyway, there's a lot of ways you can use your flashcards. So I have that batch of flashcards. Let me get them out of the way. And then, because I wanted to try out a different set, I bought these. They're on Etsy. So all the verbs are one color. All the nouns are a different color. She's marked the page number where you'll find the noun. And then on the back side, you have the Latin and then what declension and part of speech it is. So these are kind of cool. Sometimes some of the nouns have, let's see here, have like English derivatives on there. Like local is a word that we get from this Latin word. So anyway, these are kind of cool. They're very nice. They feel like a deck of cards. So these are fantastic. We use them in my class for like our spoons game and so forth. So this one I have organized by part of speech, Challenge A, Challenge B, and Challenge 1, because it's the whole first year Latin group. So they were a little pricey, but we really use them and enjoy them. So those are the flashcards that we use. Now when it comes to copy work, I guess I should show you this. All right, so I made this little chart for him for the first part of the year to get him going with Challenge A. As time went on, we sort of changed gears where I'm teaching him how to write his own assignment sheet. But anyway, I started it out for him. But this particular page, let me open it up. And this is posted on Facebook, by the way. If you searched Homework Grid, you might find it. We're a Wednesday community, so day one is Thursday, Friday, and the weekend, and so on. And so you'll see here, remember how I said we do this? We do flashcards, copy work, decline or conjugate, and then work on exercises. So the day one, sometimes other pages down the road, I would write in here specifically what I wanted him to work on, or he would choose. We do a little bit of copy work. For example, here, I wanted him to copy 3 times, the first and second declension, and we would use the workbook. So I have my workbook that I wrote on, and I'll show you how it worked. So if I wanted him to copy first and second declension 3 times, he would come over here to this and he would put a plastic sleeve. If you chop off one end of it, you'll have 2 sides open. You can just slide it over really easy. And he would just literally copy the column, erase it, and copy it again. So that was very handy for him to have and do. Then, let's see, again, decline. I would give him from page 17 in the textbook. So if I find that over here, page 17, right here, using those nouns, I would have him decline 3 of them. And I would spread out those nouns over the week. So you can tell on our day one, he would do 3 nouns, and then here's 3 more nouns. And then day 3 and day 4, it looks like we had 2 batches of vocabulary. This particular lesson had a lot of vocabulary. So there were 3, 6, 9, 12 vocabulary words altogether. So he may or may not have gotten through all of that. But anyway, so we declined at least 1 noun, sometimes 2 or 3 per day. And then on day 1, I always had him review the text that was covered in seminar. So he would just reread that information. And then on days 2, 3, and 4, he would again go through that process depending on, what it was I wanted him to copy. And then we would do some exercises. I usually tried to sit with him for the exercises, or at least get him started. You can see here how I use the workbook. So first and second declension noun endings, that was page 9 in the workbook. But over here, his copy work, I had him copy the second declension nouns, which was page 113. So if I go to page 113, he would take that sleeve and put it on here, and he would just copy these. Even though they weren't all introduced to him, it didn't matter. He was getting a head start, and he was just constantly going over vocabulary as well as going through the endings yet again. So he would copy from the page over there and use the plastic sleeve. So anyway, let's see here. So we had flashcards and rules, copy work, declining or conjugating, and then exercises. I don't think I have anything else there. Oh, but on day 4, he would preview and highlight the upcoming lesson that was going to be discussed in class that week. So as a director, I would take pictures of the pages I wanted them to highlight before they would come to class, and I would post it on our on our Challenge A Facebook page. So you could see how that works. Now, the main thing, the reason why I made this workbook in the first place is I absolutely loved the idea of Workspace A that CC puts out. However, it was really hard for my kids to stay within the confines of the spaces that they provided. So that's a lot of why I went ahead and made this worksheet, because I wanted them to be able to do all of the things that were in Workspace A, but I really wanted them to have space to do their exercises in some sort of a notebook. So he would have an exercise notebook, and I have a lefty here, so he does not like the spiral. So we tend to use these kind of composition notebooks. And I wanted him to double space between all exercises. Each exercise gets a new page. The double spacing, you'll see as we get through this, how that would play, let's see here, when they give space, plenty of space, it gives them an opportunity to label sentences, to write information about the words, whether it's, you know, the gender, the case, the number, singular and plural for verbs, and so forth. Now, this is very early on. It's only exercise 5. It's very important that we grade this stuff. So I didn't ever let him do so much that I would not be able to get a chance to grade it, or I would make sure I sat with him during the little bit of time he was doing exercises. But you can see here, when you have all the space, I would make him copy the sentence, and then he could circle the endings, he could label the sentences. We would always search for this ending that told a singular or plural, and I taught him to underline once for singular, you can see this one, and twice for plural. And then he has his English translation over here, but look at all the space that he has to really think through the problem. And so anyway, I love using notebook paper for the exercises. So again, I love Workspace A. For my kids, I needed the extra space that using notebook paper provided. So in combination with using the workbook for all of the copy work and charts, we had all the space that we needed here to do exercises. So you can kind of see, now every now and then, he would work through and he would copy, he would do the assignment, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, you've got a good handle on it. Why don't we do these out loud? So he would literally just read it and see if he could just translate it as he read it, and he would do things verbally with me, and I'd have the answer key handy. So if ever I did verbal work with him, I was sitting right there with him, and he was checking him as he went. So some of this other stuff he would do on his own, and then usually I would go back and grade, or we would grade it together out loud. But this gave me, again, using the notebook paper, it gave me an opportunity. We did this in class where step 1 is to circle the ending. Step 2 was identify declension and gender. Step 3 was identify case and number. Step 4 was to label the English part of speech across the top. And step 5 was to translate. So I had them copy that many times in class, like whenever we were working on them, and then, you know, you can see how he did that work there. Now, again, we did this in class, and so I had my whole class use an exercise notebook like this, and so I could tell them, okay, let's go ahead and get to work on exercise 12. It's like you're starting your homework, we're in class, and we could go through and do these things together and make observations, and usually somebody was on the board doing it, everybody else was doing it in their exercise notebook. So let's see, there were a couple of other things I wanted to show you. So I just love the opportunity to make a mess with it, use the color, spread things out a little bit. Here you can tell that we did that out loud together. Again, he did that at the beginning of the year. This, whenever he would misspell an English word, this gave me space for him to like copy. I would tell him to copy the word, and so he would recopy it there. There's something else I wanted to show you guys. Hold on. Let's see here. Where is it? Goodness gracious. Sometimes I would do these and type up some of the exercises and take them to class, and we would work in class with it. And so he could just bring it home and just paste it in, or we use tape, just tape it into his book. That way it's all just right there, all in one place. So look at this. How fun is this? Actually, that was the sentences we went through and labeled them, and he translated it over here. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. So we did that a bunch, where exercises from class we could just paste right in here. So I really, really enjoyed the blank paper and the ability to just maneuver with it. So you can just see how much work he got through, and it was, we really, really, you tend to do better with the kids that come later. So my oldest kid didn't get all of this, and I can really see a difference already in his ability and his just confidence, I guess, And that really boils down to having the fundamentals drilled. You really want to drill. Flashcards, 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 copy work, copy work, copy work. So decline, conjugate, and then their foundation is built well, and the translating and the exercises are not quite so crazy hard. So anyway, I think that's it. So I did want to point a couple things out in this workbook, because this is mine from last year. This is not the new one. But for me, I would sometimes, at least at the beginning of the year, I would do this and then take pictures of it and send it to the mom so they could kind of see how it worked. Oh, and the other thing we did is we would, if we found like English derivatives, we would slip them over here and write some words off to the side. You can see that we would write them there. Well, look at that. There's even Spanish, amigo. So words that come from these words, and that was kind of a fun little addition to be able to add that in there. So I don't know if I had anything else specific that I wanted to show you, but hopefully that will help. You'll have a great night.